Star Wars: New Jedi Order needs to ensure that Rey's characterization doesn't suffer from the same problems as Luke Skywalker did during the Star Wars sequel trilogy. New Jedi Order, which will see Rey Skywalker as a Jedi Master roughly 15 years after the events of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, is a turning point for the Star Wars franchise. Despite Rey's chosen surname, the movie will finally be able to move on from Anakin Skywalker's legacy, marking a new beginning for the Jedi. As a Jedi Master, Rey will be responsible for shaping the Jedi Order for years to come. That's a huge weight to carry, and Luke Skywalker, who was burdened with the same purpose, faltered under the pressure. Though his intentions were always good, the Star Wars sequel trilogy showed that Luke eventually lost sight not only of what was most important to the Jedi but what was most important to him, as well. In doing so, Luke embraced the same mistakes the Jedi Order had made before him. If Rey wants to succeed in creating a new Jedi Order, and if Star Wars wants this new story to succeed, it must remember one of the most important parts of Rey's sequel trilogy narrative. Disney's Luke Skywalker has forgotten the relationships at his heart. In Disney's Star Wars canon, Luke Skywalker is most often seen alone. In the Star Wars sequel trilogy, he hid himself away on a remote planet because he wrongly believed it was the only way to keep the galaxy safe. During his brief appearance in the Book of Boba Fett, Luke's interactions with Ahsoka Tano and Grogu proved that he was distancing himself from those around him, and that same distance would later affect his nephew. After the original Star Wars trilogy, Luke accepted the responsibility of being one of the galaxy's few remaining Jedi, but he lost a part of himself in the process. That was a mistake, however. During the original Star Wars trilogy, one of Luke's greatest strengths was his belief in people and his trust in those around him. Han, Leia, and Chewie became his family after Owen and Beru died. He needed them just as much as they needed him. His love for them and his innate sense of right and wrong propelled him to become one of the galaxy's greatest heroes. Those relationships were an undeniable part of him. Star Wars has forgotten that, though. Luke may have become more solemn, wise, and mature as a result of his Jedi training, but he never should have lost sight of those who mattered to him most. There were glimpses of his love for Leia, Han, and even Ben in the sequel trilogy, like when he spoke to Leia on Crate in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and when he asked about Han when Rey and Chewie arrived on Ahch-To, but it just wasn't the same. What happened to Ben frightened him, and that was understandable, but pulling away wasn't the answer. While Luke's actions in the Star Wars sequel trilogy made sense, and his muddled choices became an important part of the narrative, the franchise needs to make sure it doesn't allow Rey to become similarly jaded and lonely. Rey is responsible for rebuilding the Jedi Order, and she needs to learn from the Jedi's past mistakes. That includes Luke's.